I'm promoting a solution to address a problem that does exist, which is the loss of public confidence in elections against the backdrop of voter fraud that is real.
Well, why do you think there's a loss in confidence?
Nobody. Whoa. You just said you weren't interrupting me, and then you're interrupting me, Brianna.
Well,
if
now
I may finish answering the question.
In similar fashion to JD Vance, Vivek Ramaswamy refuses to be manhandled by CNN. That is right. The Puerto Rico joke that Kill Tony gave at the Madison Square Garden event is still making big headlines, causing a bunch of ruckus. And Vivek Ramaswamy gets pressed on this by an anchor on CNN. He completely destroys her. And by destroys her, I mean with his words and not with an actual fist or anything, because I know the left is the side that likes to use violence. But before we get into that, I want to remind you guys to subscribe to this channel, because if you like this uncensored, unfiltered, raw coverage of what's going on in the news without any of the fluff, you want to make sure that you subscribe to RTM News right now and make sure that you're engaging and getting a look at all that we are doing, because it is great. All right, let's get into the video.
The Trump campaign press secretary, Carolyn Leavitt, on Fox earlier saying the joke doesn't reflect the views of President Trump or our campaign, specifically talking about the Puerto Rico joke. But also she said the crowd, they didn't mind. You were there. Did you mind?
Look, the fact of the matter is I wasn't in the room when that joke was made, but I got to say, we got to take a step back and look at the double standards here, Brianna. Let's be really honest. George Lopez made a joke at Kamala Harris's rally over the weekend about all Mexicans being thieves. Are we attributing that comment to Kamala Harris or querying all of her proxies who were at that rally? No, we're not. So I think we need to all get off our high horses and acknowledge that a bad joke was told. It was bad because it wasn't very funny. The audience didn't find it funny. The guys told other funny jokes in other places. This wasn't one of them. But the media manufacturing of outrage out of this is really just a double standard when you look at the exact kind of jokes being told at the Kamala Harris rally over the weekend. And the fact is, if George Lopez had said that at the Donald Trump rally, if I may finish,
you've seen a comedy show before?
If I may finish, just to finish making the point, if the George Lopez joke had been told at the Donald Trump rally, you and I both know we'd be talking about that. But because it was at a Kamala Harris rally, we're not saying a word about it. And I think that that's just hypocritical.
I think that if your comedian were Mexican American, it might be different. I mean, you're familiar with, I'm assuming you've been to a comedy show. You're familiar with these things. If someone is of South Asian descent or they're Mexican American and they tell a joke about the group from which they come from, things can land a little differently. And we heard these jokes. There is a group, certainly, that the comedian belongs to, and he didn't really joke about them that much. So I think that's something to note as well.
The funny and most remarkable part about this is the audience didn't love the joke. They actually booed, and it says a lot about the audience's response to a bad joke. On the other hand, this is a comedian who roasted Tom Brady famously as well, so everybody knew he was a comedian. Let's also take a step back and ask what else was going on during this same rally, or focused on this early warm-up speakers. Frankly, most people didn't even know he was going to speak early on in the rally. The whole time, Tim Walz is doing a live stream, calling the people in Madison Square Garden Nazis.
And that is the thing. The truth is, Vivek Ramaswamy completely told the truth here. The audience at Madison Square Garden didn't really even respond in a positive light to the comment. And honestly, I watched the roast, and Kill Tony, apparently he's like affiliated with Joe Rogan. I guess they're like friends or something like that. And I've heard of him before. I actually just had somebody telling me the other day, you ever heard of Kill Tony? I'm like, no, I haven't. He's not that funny to me. Maybe I just haven't watched a lot of his bits, but I did watch the portion that Vivek was just talking about where he was roasting Tom Brady and you know, it was whatever, like he was coming against everybody, Kevin Hart, Tom Brady, all the people that were on the panel for the Tom Brady roast. And then when he was at the Trump rally, he was roasting all types of people. And she's spinning this narrative that it's a race thing. He's trying, and he just reluctantly didn't roast any white people. It's like, okay, like what? He's a roaster. That's what comedians do. They make fun of everybody at different times, and he had a time slot. Who knows the reason for why he didn't roast white? I didn't watch it. He may have roasted white people, but she's trying to create a narrative, trying to characterize Kill Tony and the people in the event as a specific type of people. And the funny thing is, Vivek Ramaswamy's like, they didn't even respond that way. Actually, everybody that was watching that kind of was like booing him after he made that joke. So it's completely disingenuous. I'm so sick of this. And also the parallel to the Kamala Harris rally where George Lopez did make a joke referencing that Mexicans are thieves. And it was funny. He was just being lighthearted. There's like maybe some sort of seed of truth in a lot of the humor that some people make. Also with the Puerto Rico thing, I heard that there's like actually a trash problem in Puerto Rico, and that's what he was referring to, but I don't know. But back to the George Lopez thing, people make jokes and they're not supposed to be taken seriously. Or at least not that seriously. Like if there's a seed of truth and it's like, oh yeah, we all know this is true, but like, you know, we're not gonna make a big fuss about it because it's not maybe relative to everyone. Maybe it's just a small faction of people. Maybe it's just whatever. You're not supposed to read into it and try and get so infuriated over it like the mainstream media did. And they want to talk about how, oh, there's so much coverage on this. It seems to have taken away from, no, you guys gave so much coverage to it. And it's completely disingenuous, and I'm so glad that he's doing this. And then on top of that, what you call, get so mad at Kill Tony for making a joke about Puerto Rico. Meanwhile, as he was just about to say, and I'll probably get into more, Tim Walz calls everyone in that rally, or the rally itself, a Nazi rally. That's interesting.
Where's the apology for that? I was in the room. I was there the entire time. There were multiple Israel flags held up in the audience, not exactly the material of a Nazi rally. And I just think that this media game isn't healthy for the country, where we airlift some comment. This time that didn't even come from Donald Trump, not even when Donald Trump was in the building. But a warm-up speaker at his rally makes one joke, but a comedian at Kamala Harris's rally makes at least one that's even more offensive in the other direction. And we're not talking about it. I think that we have to be able to really take seriously what Donald Trump and Kamala Harris say.
He made it in
jokes of some.
He made it in his own direction. But I will tell you that the comedian certainly overshadowed a lot of people making statements, and that included yours. You were there. You said this. This was part of your message last night, and I want to discuss it with you.
What does it mean to be American? It means we have elections we can trust and believe in, and that means single-day voting on Election Day as a national holiday with paper ballots and government-issued ID to match the voter file. That's how we save the country after we win it this time by voting early.
It wasn't overshadowed. You guys it was overshadowed by mainstream media because of you. If you guys wanted to point out what he said there and make that the focal point of the rally and make that the most pivotal moment, something that really mattered, something that would have changed the perception of everyone regarding Trump because of what Vivek said in this moment here, you would have covered it. But you didn't want to. You wanted to make it seem like it was a Nazi rally, like it was a hate rally, as AOC likes to say. It was just a hate rally full of hate and everyone was hateful. All right. Okay, sure, whatever you say. But let's see what Vivek has to say about this.
So voting early is okay to use to win for your guy, but then you want to get rid of it?
I think you got to play by the rules you have in order to change them to what they should be. Just like people should pay taxes as required by the tax code, who may otherwise favor changing the tax code. The same applies to the way we conduct elections. And if I may for a second, you brought up Puerto Rico before. I actually love Puerto Rico. I've spent a lot of time there. One of the things I've done in my studies of the island, meeting with leaders there, is understand how they conduct elections in Puerto Rico. And I think we have a lot to learn from them, where they do have single day voting on Election Day as a holiday for the island. They use paper ballots and other election security measures that we don't use in the United States. So for our part, speaking to Puerto Ricans, what I want to say is we have a lot to learn from Puerto Rico, including the way they run elections. But yes, we have to win this election in order to get there. And so play by the rules we have legally to the fullest extent allowed. And then, yes, I think it could be civic and unifying, in civic unity for the country, to say there's one day we take apart from our daily drudgery of our day to say we're doing our duty to our country and more united as a consequence. But that's not happening this election. We need to win this election. And that's why I do think it is not only okay, I would encourage people this election so we can win to vote early to change the rules to what they should be.
The way she formed the question is so frustrating. So you think that it's okay to do early voting to get your guy in, but then when he's in, you want to change things. He's saying that I would prefer if it was this way now, but because it is not, and this is the opportunities we have at hand to do it, to go early if you can. Make sure you don't miss out on voting. It's important to show the enthusiasm of our movement, of our people. And like, as you can see, Republicans are registering to vote or voting early a lot more than other states that you would not expect. I think New Jersey just came out that it just came out in New Jersey that Republicans are voting more Democrats right now. So it's like, stop with this disingenuous talking points where you're trying to characterize things in a way that they're not. It's so frustrating, and she's probably about to say some nonsense here, so let's tune into that.
On national holidays, some people will still work. We see them working. We see them. If you're so concerned
for that, of course, there are exceptions for people who are working, like emergency workers or otherwise. But the basic premise, as Puerto Rico does it, if
you're so concerned about Vivek, if you're so concerned about paper trails, are you aware who has the biggest lack of them?
I don't follow the premise of the question, Brianna. I have to confess.
If you're so worried about paper trails.
Yes.
Like, is this like an issue that you're talking about, or are you aware that it's a few counties in Texas and it's all of Louisiana? I mean, are you talking to those folks? Have you talked to the leadership in those localities, those states where there is no paper trail at all, let alone paper ballots, and said, hey guys, maybe fix this?
So look, here's something you and I can, I think, agree on. I think you and I would agree on this. The crisis of public trust in our elections is a real problem. And if we can shore up that trust in a way that says we're done, nobody wants to be complaining. Certainly I don't want to be complaining, or anyone on my side to be complaining about stolen elections or election integrity. The easiest way to move it forward is to do it the way that Puerto Rico does it today. And I think that many countries do it this way. We've done it this way in the past with respect to paper ballots in our country. I don't think government-issued ID should be controversial.
But most people have paper ballots.
If I may finish, Brianna, the fact that many people find government-issued ID requirements to be controversial is actually what breeds that mistrust about election integrity in the first place.
Okay, I do just want to be...
That is very true. And they don't ever... There was a video that came out not too long ago where there was someone interviewing people in the streets, asking all these white people on the streets, I think it was in New York or something, do you think voter ID laws are racist? Do you think it... And then a lot of people in the interview were saying, yes, because I think it's so rude to disrespect black people, and assuming some of them don't know where how to get it at the DMV. Some of them aren't sure of what to do there, and they blah 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 blah, making all these excuses for them, making it seem as though they're incompetent, they're not capable. Because honestly, I feel like that's more racist than anything else. You're making us feel as if we're lesser, or we're not smart enough to be able to figure out how to go to the DMV or go to the Secretary of State and get our license or our state ID. Like we're so dumb. We can't comprehend how to do something like that. Something so simple as driving to a building and asking for some legal documents or identification. That's insulting. That's racist. And then in that same video, same interview, goes to a black community asking, is it hard for you to, is it racist for you to find an ID, or do you know how to go get one and all that stuff? And they're like, no, what are you talking about? Yeah, that's crazy. And what would you say to people who said that was difficult for you? I'd say, what the heck are you talking about? That's weird. What do you mean? Yeah, no, it's right up the street. I just went the other day or whatever. And it just shows how the media has completely brainwashed people into thinking that this is just something that we're stupid. And it's like, it's this false proposed sense of love, when in reality, you're demeaning and diminishing black people to not be able to live up to the same standard as everybody else, or people of color, or whatever the demographic may be. And it's disheartening, it's disingenuous, and it's annoying. And it shows that you don't actually care. The people that are brainwashing people with these, obviously some people are actually insane and think this is a problem, but I can't stand her framing of every question and the way she's going about this. It's like, ugh, why are you doing this? Well, I know why you're doing it. You're paid by whoever's at the top of CNN, and we all know the Clinton News Network, or the Communist News Network, which everyone calls it, is not in the favor of the American people.
These are themselves controversial reveals.
Most people, there is a paper ballot, and there is a paper trail, that the process by which they're doing it generates a paper ballot, a paper trail to show how they have voted. So this idea that a bunch of people are voting and it just kind of goes off into the ether, that doesn't happen. We're talking about
Brianna,
the vast majority.
You didn't hear me say that.
I didn't interrupt you, sir. The vast majority of people. So it's sort of, I'm just curious, because it seems like, also to the point of the ID, this idea of non-citizen voting, it's already illegal for non-citizens to vote in federal elections, with threat of prosecution and deportation as a deterrent, which may be why it just doesn't happen in any meaningful number, including in your home state. I just wonder, in both of these cases, are you promoting a solution to solve problems that don't exist?
I'm promoting a solution to address a problem that does exist, which is the loss of public confidence in elections against the backdrop of voter fraud that is real.
Well, why do you think there's a loss in confidence?
Nobody. Whoa. You just said you weren't interrupting me, and then you're interrupting me, Brianna.
Well, now
I may finish answering the question.
Because we're running out of time.
Don't say you're not interrupting, and then you are interrupting, and then he calls you out for it, and then you go, well, yeah, now I am, because we're no, that's not how it works. You just didn't want him to finish his point because you know he's about to cook you.
Why do you think there's a loss in confidence?
I think there's a loss in confidence because there are unknown numbers of illegal migrants in this country. And I think there's a big loss of confidence because people object to the idea of using voter IDs, the same IDs you're required to drive a car. Why is it objectionable to use that to actually be a requirement to vote?
Yeah.
The fact that people call that racist to shut down debate, yes, I do think that breeds public mistrust.
I do.
So here's what
I'm going to interrupt you because best practices.
I don't want complaints about election integrity. I don't want us fighting over stolen elections.
Cross-referencing votes with the DMV and Social Security to make sure that that doesn't happen. I do just want to be clear. You're talking about this idea of like all of these imaginary illegal immigrants who are voting. It's just not true. Texas, there was this point where they had thousands of people they identified as non-citizens. Turned out they had become citizens. They actually had to settle because of what they did there. Georgia, the Republican Secretary of State, they identified 20 non-citizens who had registered to vote out of 8.2 million. Nine of them had voted. All of them were sent to law enforcement. And in Ohio, your state, out of 8 million people, law enforcement is reviewing 138 people who cast a ballot for possibly, that hasn't even been confirmed. I get what you're saying, but these numbers are not meaningful.
I've heard these cases.
You spend a lot of time talking about a problem that is so minuscule, it doesn't affect outcomes.
I actually don't. The challenge I would give you and to anybody who shares your view is explain why voter ID laws are controversial. Why is it racist to have a voter ID law? And the fact that people are using racist allegations against the simple premise of having a driver's license to vote is what is breeding public mistrust in our elections. And I'll make a pledge to everybody in this country, Republican or Democrat. If we get to voter ID laws that match the voter file and have single-day voting on Election Day as a national holiday, I'm done, and anybody else in the Republican Party should be done as well, and the Democratic Party too, in complaining about election integrity. Do it the way Puerto Rico does it, and if they do it in Puerto Rico, we can do it in the rest of the United States, and turn this page so that we're not talking about this issue. But the fact that voter ID laws are themselves controversial with the left reveals that there is a real issue here, that if a voter ID law is deemed racist and you're not even allowed to talk about advocating for that without undergoing this kind of grilling, that reveals a real issue and loss of public trust that I do believe we need to fix to unite this country. That's my hope, and I do think a solid victory, which we are not debating on November 6th, for either candidate, I hope it's Donald Trump, is something that will unite this country, and that's what I'm rooting for.
And that's what's so weird is that, like, it isn't racist to say you want voter ID laws and to sit there, like you said, in order to like try and present talking points that actually prove that that's like a valid concern, as in saying you're racist. No, you're racist for saying that. Like you're trying to deter people from making ID being required for voting, which doesn't make any sense because you need a voter ID you need your ID to be able to go to buy alcohol. You need your ID to be able to drive. You need your ID for all sorts of things, and they will not let you do those things unless you have your ID. And so it's so weird to sit there and trying to manipulate the argument or manipulate the words of other people by saying, oh, it must be a race thing. It's so disingenuous, and Vivek hit the nail on the head there. It's so good. And the fact that she's out here bringing all these statistics about how some illegals got caught trying to vote or whatever it may be, like, okay, what about the ones that may have not gotten caught? Like, you're just like, you're the way that you are framing your evidence and everything that you want to believe to be true or you want to propagate to be true does not negate any other concern that people may have. And half the country is not insane. So thanks for telling us we are, but it's not true.
Well, I think it's because the consequence that I certainly hope from your perspective is inadvertent, is that it discourages some people who have the right to vote from voting in numbers that far eclipse what you're talking about solving with this non-existent problem. But
I respectfully disagree with that, just as it doesn't deter them from driving. But I think that that's a reasonable discussion for us to have in good faith rather than dismissing voter ID laws as racist. At least that's a constructive step in the debate.
I don't know. I didn't say it was racist. So I understand. Maybe you're having a conversation.
Your network does.
With someone else about this, but it's not me.
In Georgia, countless leftists have, yeah.
Vivek Ramaswamy, thank you for being with us.
Oh my goodness, Vivek cooked her. That's another thing about CNN that's so annoying is that they sit there and peddle random things. Oh man, it's like when you say like, man, everybody loves ice cream, man. Well, not everybody. Not everybody loves ice cream. So-and-so doesn't. It's okay. It's a generalized statement. This is a problem. This is an issue people have. Like, it's so disingenuous. It's super frustrating. Vivek held his own. He everything that she tried to box him into a corner with something he always had the correct answer to refute. I really appreciate him standing up for the Trump rally that happened in Madison Square Garden, where thousands of people of all different races, religions, skin tones were there to support Donald J. Trump because I think he's the right man for the job, and so do I. And I appreciate him for calling out the hypocrisy with George Lopez speaking at Kamala Harris's rally, saying something that was racist by their standards. And I appreciate him for saying that voter ID laws should not be considered racist, and if you think that they're racist, there's something wrong and sketchy with what's going on with you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure that you are subscribed to RTM News so you can enjoy some more of our uncensored, amazing, fun content. See you guys next time. Peace.